get a relatively early developer working in that code base in like a week or two because the patterns are that simple to work in. The application will scale to millions of users. The infrastructure that is pretty much the Vercel defaults with edge functions opted in will scale to millions of requests a minute without issue. It'll cost pennies to do it. Just
Okay,
because the thing is simple doesn't mean it's not like capable or complex. The point at which that complexity comes in is when the problem needs it. When like you're building a, let's say you're doing a video call application, you can use
yeah.
infrastructure like 100ms or Agora, and they'll have example React components on their website, and you can adopt those. But then you want to add transcoding and recording. Now you're going to have to learn a little bit more about deploying a server and FFmpeg and all those parts. But the best time to learn those things is when you have those problems, not in pursuit of feeling more capable or complex.
We're saying the same thing with that. Like we're in complete agreement with that.
I really like the and maybe I got a bit lost in this conversation maybe because I was not sure if it seemed like you kind of agree with each other but also kind of disagree and I wasn't sure I'm catching where exactly. But it just reminded me like this I do want to point out like specifically like with server components, um like a part of it is it was not, it was like it was intentionally designed simultaneously for like let's get the smallest thing the most minimal that it can be, and also like let's make sure that everything we learned like over the last 10 years of Facebook is like in the a lesson learned like that we didn't waste this lesson. And so like things like you need like a router that can scale and doesn't download like there are these like tiny things uh snuck into the architecture everywhere. Whereas here's the thing we learned. Here's the thing we learned. And they're like all over the place there. And it's really because so that's what I mean. Like it is intentionally designed for small and for big things. Like it wasn't designed like one way or another. And it was designed so that like the other principle that we have is we don't design differently for small and big things. Like we try to design the composition laws so that, if you know that like 1 plus 1 equals 2 and 2 plus 2 equals 4 and so on, it just keeps growing like in some predictable way. And so uh, that's also why like if you find the right principles, then you don't need to introduce like a ton of, different levels of concepts. Even if the principles are like a little bit like they do require you to rewire the brain a little bit. It's like growing like it feels weird,
Like use
but
effect.
it is similar to learning like again like knitting, right? Like it's like you learn to do something that's at first like you're kind of clumsy and you're like, why the hell am I doing this? And then later it just becomes second nature. And so yeah, I just wanted to say like it's intentional that these things kind of work both for like small and big things. And what I like the phrase that Tamakino used because like the original React team manager since like I mean in early years in like 2013 or well I guess 2012 maybe I don't know like
Tom
he
has
managed.
dug me out of so much shit. I love him to death. He is a fantastic human
Yeah,
being.
he's amazing. Yeah, and like he called and I mean he got it from somebody else probably. I don't know if he can I don't think he came up with it. But like he has this like greatest hits. Like one of them is like people don't hate bad news, people hate surprises. We're bad at this one. But one of them is like progressive disclosure of complexity. And that is this idea, right? Like it's um the whole thing can be you know pretty deep, but what you want to what I think you kind of want is you start like shallowly. I agree. Like you start shallowly, you can just dip your toes into it. Then like as you go deeper, the patterns don't change under you. You're not forced to like rewrite from one approach to another because you hit a wall. Like you're not supposed to be hitting walls. You're supposed to be, be able to go forward as you kind of scale it up. Uh, and then like at some point, it just maybe there's some nuance or some, something that you have to learn, and you learn it when you really need it. And it turns out that as you go down this tunnel, and like maybe there's like another tunnel when you go down for like some different feature, you go down like a different rabbit hole, and then it turns out that these rabbit holes connect. It turns out that actually the person who thought of those, two different like rabbit holes, like this person actually connected them together in like a spectacular fashion, and like you don't even know that this connection exists because it just works. Or like sometimes you're like, oh, I see why it was wired this way. So that is kind of the beauty of it, is like you can start very shallowly, you can go very deep, and then as you zoom out, it still makes sense. Like it's like connected in ways that are very intentional, and that is what I like about this like architectural approach.
Yeah, this is the specific thing I've been trying to push the most with like even my education material, like how I help developers get started. It's you need to have that first overview before you can know how deep you can or should go. The depth you go should be determined mostly by the complexity of what you're building. And I forgot the exact phrase you said Tom had. Was it like progressively exposed complexity?
Yeah, progressive disclosure.
Progressive disclosure. I love that. That I very much like hard agree on. And it's the thing I like the most about the direction of React, both like the framework and the education materials, is that it gets you to a happy path that covers so much so fast, and then more complexity reveals itself as your needs grow.
One of the things that back in the day, oh Jesus, 2015, I guess, when Cypress was a thing, like Cypress the end-to-end test runner, um, their docs made a huge impact because they followed progressive disclosure. It was like the simplest things first, like how do you click on an element in a test? How do you do X, Y, or Z in a test? And then like way down in the sidebar, it would be like, okay, mock requests. Like how do I mock this weird, by the way, you can write your own express router to handle custom file formats if you ever fucking needed to. And I did need to last job. We did some crazy shit. Cypress was able to handle it, but you don't need to go into that part of the API docs for until you have the problem. But they nailed it. They got the why. They got the why in there very early on, and then the how was very consistent. And just yeah, I don't know. I really appreciated the docs for what they were, especially when they were written.
Yeah, I think the like I think of it with React, like I remember I think like there was this post like why React early on, but I think it's still like because React was not popular really like for a while. People were not really impressed by it. Um, but and then I think like the part that changed the perspective was Pete Hunt's rethinking best practices talk, and later like David Nolan's blog post about the future of MVC frameworks. Um, And the thing in Pete's talk that like really resonated with me was I think maybe like when I watched the documentary that they released about React, there was this I think maybe like interview with Pete, but I think he was just kind of explaining like the background for this talk, and it was like a funny story that they were sponsoring JSConf EU, and like somebody needed to give a talk, and Tomo was already feeling pretty defeated from, like previously introducing React, and people were just that that's like a really bad idea, and didn't want to do it, and so Pete agreed to do it, and he was like his speech was not, like he kind of did this thing that I think you're describing about uh, well, what is the why? Like, how do how does it work? I don't think like he got into like how it works like on a deep technical level. I think he kind of just sketched it out, but it was enough of a sketch to like to explain both like kind of the high level picture, but also the like why React. And it was interesting to hear that like Pete wasn't really like it wasn't a hard sales pitch. He was almost apologetic, just like here's why we think this is interesting. Here's why we think that that this actually makes sense. Here are the things we ran into, and I don't think we've done quite. I guess we did like server components announcement like talk, but nobody remembers that. That was long time, and also it was during COVID, and like it was not a real conference, so just uh just like recorded it on some bad camera at home, and together with Lauren, and like she recorded the demo. But I think maybe we have to explain this well, and like maybe this is something that it would be good to just give more, give more talks or blog posts about why we think it's interesting. Not necessarily like why you have to use it, but what is it that we find there? Because there's definitely something there, I think. And it's a different, I think it's just weird that React is so popular that this is, it's nice because our ideas get heard at least, but it also means that whatever we kind of have to sell to all audiences like at the same time or something like this. Like we have to explain like why are we working on this thing? Why are we working on this thing? Like what this thing is? Why is it not the thing that we asked for? And it's just so many questions, and like they all have different answers. And sometimes it's nice when nobody knows you yet, and you can just do whatever, and then people discover and spread the word. It's a different environment.
It's an environment I'm much more excited to teach in. I a lot of material to make, but I think I'm figuring out how to more succinctly express these things. It will be a fun journey, and I will piss people off and confuse things and get it all wrong, but eventually people will see this because when it clicks, and it's really fucking cool.
I think I'm gonna check out on this note, and really appreciate you hosting and everyone
course.
listening. I know I'm rambling a lot. It's 6 a.m., so I should probably go to sleep.
Yeah,
So
please. Thanks for stopping by as always.
yeah,
We really
thank you all
appreciate
so
you, Dan.
much.
Thanks, Dan. Bye.
Yes.
If
See
anybody here
you.
isn't
Bye.
following the speakers, please do. Probably gonna wrap it up here. But yeah, everybody up here is awesome. Thank you all for being here. Super, super fun. Yeah. Anybody have anything they want to shout out?
Just a thanks to you and Ryan for making a Vue.js developer feel at home. And
I
yeah,
just realized this was a React dev, a solid dev, a Vue dev, and a Next dev.
oh my god, yeah, we had quite the cross framework feels. It was cool though. It was really cool. And the space before this with that Jacob hosted was cool. Kind of led into this. So shout out to Jacob for hosting that space where Dan and Theo got into it kindly. And this has been a really fun night. Thanks everybody.
Yeah.
Overriding fetch was the right call.
Sorry, what was that?
Overriding fetch was the right call.
No, you don't say that at the end. No. Overriding fetch
yeah.
is not the right call. We talked about this already. They're reversing it, so I'm happy about that.
They're reversing it at the React level, but it is necessary as a developer using this model.
You're baiting him so hard, Theo.
Yeah, man. You know what? If that's the case, they're working on a fundamentally flawed model. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. It's.
We shall see.
It's 1 a.m. is what it is, Ryan. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
Bye,
it's
guys.
fine.
We can settle this one another time. I'll chat with you in Discord.
I mean, it's I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. I tuned out at the end because we got to a point where we just sound like React invented everything. And it's funny because Vue is the progressive framework. Like that's actually its slogan. and its teaching model falls along a lot of the same.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. That's what we're here for,